Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast, where stories shine and authors inspire. I'm your host, Chris Dabbs, and today we're joined by a truly remarkable guest, Dr. Howard E. Rubin, the author of the compelling new book, How a Nobody Became a Somebody. Dr. Rubin's academic and professional accomplishments are extraordinary. He earned a BS in biology from Guildford College in just 3.5 years, followed by an MS in medical microbiology from Wake Forest University School of Medicine. From the University of Michigan, he went on to earn an MPH, an MS in environmental health, and a PhD in public health in less than 4 years. He continued his academic journey as an NIH postdoctoral fellow at Cornell University and served as a research scientist at Rutgers University. Over the course of more than 2 decades, Dr. Rubin has worked as an environmental health scientist and toxicologist for both public and private institutions. He's also taught numerous science and health courses as an adjunct professor. But what makes his story even more powerful is how far he came to get here, overcoming a learning disability, repeating 4th grade, and being told he wasn't college material. Dr. Rubin not only proved the doubters wrong, he turned his setbacks into a launch pad. His new book is a testament to resilience and a roadmap for anyone who has ever felt like an underdog. In today's episode, we'll explore the challenges he overcame, the lessons he's learned, and the impact he hopes to make with this deeply personal and motivational story. So let's get into it. Okay, well, Howard, thanks very much for joining us. It's fantastic to see you. But listen, what inspired you to write How a Nobody Became a Somebody? I mean, was there like a defining moment that pushed you to share your story?
Well, what happened was that on my birthday, 2 of my daughters gave me books on how to write my memoirs. And then later on, my other 2 children said that I should write my memoir. They said that they really knew very little about my life because I don't normally talk about it. I don't talk about my past. I just would occasionally tell them a story of that would crop up when I would think about it. But on the other hand, my 11-year-old granddaughter, Lily, I used to sit and talk with her a lot and tell her what it was like for me when I was her age. And we did that for years.
Oh, that's nice.
So when I started writing my memoir, Lily came to me and said, "You know, Grandpa, you went through a lot in your life. You should be able to use that and tell people what you've done and how you were able to accomplish it." And so that's when I realized not only should I write my memoir, I should make it into a self-help book as well.
Oh, wow. You see, now that's really, now Lily is obviously a very clever person saying that you should be doing that.
She is amazing. I don't know. She didn't come from my side of the family.
That's always the way, right? Well, no, that's really good. And that's, thinking about things. I mean, if I told my kids, about my background and all that, they'd just be yawning and say, whatever. But maybe it's because it's the grandchild, that they're interested more, I think. You never know. I mean, Lily's obviously really done us all a favor by suggesting that you write this. So you describe in your book overcoming, significant academic and personal challenges early in your life. Schooling and being told by careers people that you weren't going to go forward. What was the turning point when you realized that you could achieve more than what others expected of you, including those teachers and things?
Well, yeah, you're right. There were a lot of challenges that I had to overcome. Personally, growing up, I was very introverted and shy. I had poor social skills. I really felt uncomfortable being around people. And on the other hand, academically, I had to repeat 4th grade.
Mm.
When I was in high school, my academic or my guidance counselor told me that I didn't have the intelligence or the ability to do college level work. I shouldn't even bother trying.
Yeah, that's really hard. That must have been really tough.
And to make it even worse, all of my friends told me that I shouldn't bother going to college because what's the sense of going if you're just going to fail? It's going to be depressing and demoralizing for me. So it's better not to even bother. Later in life, I found that I had a learning disability. I didn't know it at the time. And even my parents never said a word about my going to college, which is surprising because in our culture, college is expected.
Mm.
I got no guidance, nobody to talk to. I had no idea what to do, how to do it. I was really a lost soul. And so I decided, well, why should I listen to these people? I mean, after all, how can they be able to accurately predict my future?
True.
So I decided what I would do is I would try going to college, but I didn't want to take 4 months to flunk out. So instead, before college started, I went to summer school. And summer school is 2 6-week sessions. So the first 6 weeks, I took a course. And to my amazement, I made a B in it.
Right.
So I went for the next 6 weeks, the second session, and I took two courses. And I made a B and a very high C. And that's when I realized, well, perhaps if I really do my very best work, do the very best that I can, maybe I really can do college level work. So that was the turning point for me.
Well, it shows you, doesn't it, really, that it's just it's like an epiphany or something that you had, where you suddenly realized, hey, hang on a second, I can do this. And if you look at your subsequent academic career, it's both rigorous and impressive. I mean, multiple graduate degrees in such a short span of time. I mean, how did you manage such drive and focus during those years when you were doing those studies?
Well, for me, it was the fear of failure.
Mhm.
Uh, if I failed, I would end up having to return to my hometown, which I really hated and didn't want to be there. Uh, but I really didn't want to fail.
So that was,
And,
oh, hello, you still there,
uh,
Howard?
and so the fear of failure was my
Oh, so
I wanted to succeed more than I wanted anything in life. I wanted to prove to myself that yes, I could do it. It wasn't that I was trying to show everybody that they were wrong, because I really didn't care what they thought. People would tell me as I got each degree, I should go back to my guidance counselor and say to him, "See, you were wrong." But I never did it because it didn't matter. What mattered is that I was doing it for myself.
Oh,
And
hi, Howard.
uh,
Sorry,
have I?
that's all gone a bit strange. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but I
Yeah,
can't
okay.
see.
I don't know what's quite going on. It stopped and then I think it's started again. So let me just press no, it's still recording. I don't know. I can't actually hear you now, but I don't know what is going on. Hold on. It's all going a bit strange for some strange reason. I think Zoom is just deciding that it wants to crash. And right. Ah, I hate to do this, but I think I'm going to have to stop it and then restart. But we don't have to start from the beginning. Don't worry. We can go back to not wanting to go back to your hometown. But let me finish it. And oh,
All
sorry.
right,
Oh, hang on. I can hear you now.
all
Yeah.
right.
I
But
know.
Can you see me?
Yes, and I can see you. So that's cool. Okay,
Okay.
let's continue then. So we were talking.
Okay. I can't see you, but that's all right.
Yeah. Okay, we were talking about the motivation behind doing so much academic work. And the last thing I heard you say was you didn't want to go back to your hometown.
Right. So that was my drive. And my focus was on the goal. My goal was to graduate from college. And as far as my academic career being impressive, I really can't say that it is or it isn't. However, I did graduate from college in 3.5 years, and I could have done it in 3 years, but I wanted to take the last semester and just enjoy myself a little bit. And then I got my master's in medical microbiology, and I did that in a year and a half instead of the 2 years what it's supposed to take. And that made me feel better because I felt like I lost a year when I repeated fourth grade. So I caught up to myself. And then when I went on for my doctorate, I did my doctorate in 3.5 years. Normally in our field, it takes a minimum of 4, and usually it's 6 years after the master's. And so in 3.5 years, I was able to get 2 additional masters and my doctorate. The way that I was able to do it was that I worked 80 hours a week, all the way through college, through graduate school. And I would take additional courses because honestly, my focus was to graduate. I wanted to get out as fast as I could so that I could stop having this ordeal, uh, trying to survive in college and start having a life. My friends would go out and party on a Saturday night, and I would stay in the dorm room studying. That's not a life.
Obviously, you mentioned that you were told that you didn't have the IQ for college, and you mentioned also about lacking your support from your friends and family. I mean, how did you transform that doubt into the motivation that you needed as well? How did that work? And what about your learning disability? We could go on the repeating of the fourth grade. That would have discouraged many people. What helped you push through those early struggles with all those things?
I didn't know that I had a learning disability until after I got my PhD.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Rather, what happened was that I just assumed that I was the dullest tool in the toolbox. And I realized that, okay, not being very intelligent is fine if you're willing to put forth extra effort to overcome it. And that was one of the reasons why I would work 80 hours a week. It took me twice as long to prepare for a test as anybody else, and I would get half the grades.
Hmm.
But that was okay because that was the best that I was able to do. You can't expect anybody to do more than their best. And sure, everything was discouraging, but the encouragement came that each semester I was able to pass the courses. Maybe I didn't get all A's, which I didn't. I was happy with C's because you still can graduate with a C. And so I ended up getting B's and C's as an undergraduate. But it was my philosophy that really enabled me to push through. And that is that, bless you.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay. And that is that whatever I do my very, very best. If I do my best and I fail, well, there's no shame in that because nobody could expect anything more than you're doing your best. And so by being able to do the very best that I could, and having having some success along the way, that propelled me to keep going forward.
You see, that's the thing, right? That is being resilient for a start, maintaining a positive mindset as well, really, isn't it? And just as you say, why very few of us, I think, are in that mindset of saying, you've tried as hard as you can only do what you do. We're so, I guess it's ingrained in us to really sort of beat ourselves up, right? And if one fails, then you think, I'm just a failure. But that's not, and it's not even about failing, is it? As you say, B's and C's are perfectly acceptable. There's not a problem with that, and you really managed to show this. So, what practices or mindsets have helped you most then when facing all of this adversity? You've mentioned being positive about things. What else?
Well, I would say that another part of my philosophy is that once you start something, you never quit. And I wouldn't. When there would be barriers in my way to success, I would work twice as hard trying to figure out a way around the barrier. I realized early on that the only way I would fail is if I quit. So it ended up with never quit, never stop, never give up. You move forward, you find a way. Maybe it might not be an ideal solution that you have, but it's one that keeps you moving forward.
So you don't.
And
Oh, sorry.
so that gives me my mindset. What was my mindset? I would like to say it was a positive mindset, but it wasn't. After all, my whole life I was told I can't do the work. How could I have a positive mindset like that? But on the other hand, I didn't have a negative mindset either. My negative mindset was, you can't do it. My mindset was, I don't know till I try. It was like a great experiment. So I would say I had a neutral mindset. I didn't know what to expect, so I did what I could.
Right. Which is quite good, really, considering what you went on to be, right, or what you've been doing. So, from being an NIH postdoc, right, to a research
Yes.
scientist, brilliant, and a government consultant, your career spans science and public service. So, what's been the most fulfilling parts of your professional life, really, since academia?
Well, professionally, as a public health servant, I would work as an environmental toxicologist, going to hazardous waste sites. And I would determine if people living on or around those sites would end up having some kind of an illness as a result of their exposures. And the government, although perhaps I shouldn't be saying this, their attitude was to whitewash it, not to tell anybody anything.
Mm.
But I thought that was not morally right. It wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't fair to the people who were exposed. So I would go to the people that I had that were on these sites, and I would talk to them and explain to them what the problem was, the extent of the problem, what the likelihood that they were being exposed, uh, what my analysis was for their the chances for their getting any kind of illness, and what to do about it if they did. And they were always eternally grateful to me for that. Uh, they considered me their friend. Uh, Unfortunately, a lot of these people did develop adverse health effects. Usually that translated into rare cancers that they would die of. So it was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah.
But I felt like I made a difference in their life because at least they could prepare for it, they could minimize their risks. And so not everybody that would die or that had to die would die. And that was very stimulating for me. And as a professor, I can't tell you how many times I'd be walking on the street and former students would come up to me and say, Dr. Rubin, it's so good to see you. I want to thank you for having been my professor. You know, I've gone further now because of you. You gave me the guidance that I needed to go forward. Sometimes my wife and I would go for a meal, and we would go with our friends. And frequently, our server would turn out to be a former student. And they'd come up to me and they would hug me and they would tell me in front of everybody, you are the best professor I ever had. I want to thank you so much. And they would comp our meals. And the biggest sense of satisfaction I had was when I would look at my wife and see how she would be beaming with pride.
Do you know what, Howard? That sounds wonderful. I got to say, that really does sound like a good payback, right, for how kind you were. I think those sites, right? Let me just circle back to that, if that's okay, because it's something about you. Now, was this part of your job to tell people about what the adverse effects of living where they were living was, or was this something that you wanted to do personally? And if it was your job, do you think that you took it further because of your personal, thoughts, really, your personal outlook?
No, my job was to determine the likelihood of a population who is exposed developing adverse health effects.
Yeah.
I took it on myself to tell them. And because of that, I created waves.
Yeah.
And the EPA, TSCA, the New Jersey Department of Health and Department of Environmental Protection all wanted to get me fired because I was like a loose cannon as far as they were concerned.
Well, no.
But I forced them to be more transparent as a result.
Well, that's what we hope governments are like, right? So things hopefully have changed somewhat. We hope, in terms of not, having sites with toxic waste. But then again, that's bound to be still happening. I don't know, but it's bound to be. But it shows you, doesn't it, really, how you've taught at several universities, okay, and if you talk about your experiences with your ex-students afterwards, how do you think that your personal journey then shaped your teaching philosophy, especially towards students who might be struggling in some way as to you might have done, in order for them to have loved you as a professor? Did they all come together? All those things come together?
What's interesting is that I got these accolades, even though I was a very tough professor, because of what I went through. I tried to maintain academic rigor. I wanted them to know the material. And because of what I went through, it made me more sensitive to the struggles that other students have. And I wanted to help them. The whole thing I ever wanted to accomplish in life were to be able to help people when I could. And the other was to leave the earth a little bit better place than I found it.
Fair enough.
Thank you. And so what I did is that when I saw students who were floundering or struggling, I would talk to them after class and try to get their story, try to find out what was going on with them, what was hurting them, why they couldn't do the work the way they could. After all, they were all smarter than I was, as far as I knew. And if I could do it, they should be able to. And when they would tell me that they had personal problems that interfered with their ability to do the work, I would try to help them. I would bend over backwards if I had to help them get around the barriers so that they could be successful. For those students that were not doing the work, I would talk to them and try to motivate them. And sometimes I would succeed, sometimes I didn't. I mean, after all, you cannot reach everybody.
Hmm.
But I was able to reach a fair number of them and stimulate them to do the work. And so that was very satisfying for me. And so, because of my background, what I had to go through, I was able to short circuit it for other people.
Yeah, understandably, that makes sense. So really, you've referred to your book as a roadmap, right, for others facing obstacles, I think, and you've just mentioned how you help, or how you helped rather, some of your students to overcome those things through motivation and basically empathy, really, so that you understood what they were going through, right, and so you were trying to motivate them as well. So, what core message do you hope that your readers walk away with after finishing the book?
Well, the core message would be that you can do the work. You can succeed if you're willing to put forth the effort. And what you have to do is set a goal for yourself. And the goal should really, or the ultimate goal should really be the dream that you have, what you want out of life. And to do this, you have to pay a price, and that price is sacrifice. Like, I sacrificed having a life until I graduated, and then I partied hard afterwards to catch up.
Yeah.
But I was willing to pay the necessary price to achieve my dream, to get to my ultimate goal. And I see that people have a choice of two. Either they pay the price and they sacrifice now and have a better life later, or they have a good life now and they sacrifice for the rest of their life.
Mm. I think we know which way the world's going right now. I think so. No, I think very wise words, right? Sacrifice now for the future. It's like saving in your pension, or or anything like that, right? For retirement, saving for retirement and things. So, quite apart from your granddaughter Lily, who did you write this book for? I mean, is there a particular person or a type of reader that you had in mind while writing? Students or just normal people?
Well, I wrote the book for two reasons. One, for my children, so they knew what my past was. But the focus really was on the regular readership. I wanted to use my life as an example, how you can achieve your goals in spite of any adversity that you might have. And so that was the person that I was writing it for. People who needed a little bit of inspiration or motivation. I was trying to give it to them through my book.
So that's interesting. Okay. So looking back through your journey, right, of school and everything else, how do you define success now? From nobody to somebody. How do you define that?
I define success as the ability to reach a goal. Of course, ultimate success would be reaching your ultimate goal, reaching the dream that you have for your life. But life is very uncertain. You never really know how far you can go. And perhaps you won't be able to reach your ultimate goal. But since we have a roadmap to reaching your ultimate goal. And that roadmap, it really consists of small goals, each goal leading to the next goal, which will eventually lead to your ultimate goal, your dream. Each goal that you achieve, you are a success. The more goals you can achieve, the greater a success you are.
Mm.
So even if you don't succeed in achieving your dream, you still can be successful by achieving at least some of the goals along the way. That way, you are not a failure because you have achieved success.
I think that that is so profound. It's like sports people, right? When they have these incremental gains, it's the same kind of thing, I think, except that I don't mean that in a technological point of view for the incremental gains even. I mean it by having micro goals along the way, which is what you're saying. So yes, you have a big picture. You want to graduate, right? And you want to have a certain grade or whatever. But before that, you've got to pass all the modules. You've got to pass all the work. You've got to do the work. And every day that you do that is another goal completed, right? So I see what you're saying. It's like with me. If I wanted to lose more weight, right, I've got to exercise more. So yeah, every day I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I've got to work towards that goal. And there we go. I mean, it's so wise, honestly. And it sounds really simple, right? But it's not simple, is it? Otherwise, we'd all be like massive successes, yeah?
That's right. Uh, yeah, it's as you just said, it isn't a simple process. There has to be a great deal of planning. You have to have certain skills, like good time management skills, to be able to move forward. And what do you do when you reach a barrier? How do you get around it? All of this plays a part in how far you're able to achieve. So, sometimes, let's face it, there can be barriers that are so great that you cannot go forward.
Sometimes that's true, isn't it? And it's about identifying those, I guess, but making sure that they are real barriers, not just perceived barriers. Yeah,
That's right.
no, I understand that. I think that's the thing. So far, then, since you launched your book, what sort of feedback have you had from your readers or colleagues or former students? I mean, have you had anything that surprised you?
I was surprised that it really has made an impact. My children read the book, and all of them said, "Gee, I didn't realize you had such a tough life." I said, "That's why I don't talk about it."
Yeah, right.
And uh, my cousin said that read the book, they told me that they never saw any of this. They just assumed that things were going relatively smoothly for me. They didn't realize it. And for the general readership, the feedback that I've got was very positive, very good. They would tell me that by reading my story, it made what the suggestions I made to move forward in your life, it made more sense, and that they felt stimulated and motivated because of it, that it was going to make a difference in their life.
You see, and that's the thing. So that's interesting, that because legacy and making a difference seems to be a key theme in your book. I mean, what do you want your legacy to be for your family or even your field, and your readers, really? What's it's a bit different to a core message, but what's your legacy?
Well, my legacy, well, by definition, a legacy is what you leave.
Yeah.
And my legacy for my children was I leave them a keepsake on one hand, and an understanding of me, and which was the result of how I grew up, was how I treated them. So they better understood why I raise them the way I did. So that would, so they're affected by my past, both directly and indirectly. So that was the legacy for my children. And for the general readers, I wanted my legacy to be that I was able to make a difference in their life. I'm able to help people to move forward when they're floundering. I want to be able to help people who do not have a dream to develop one and start to work toward it. I think, to sum it up, on my tombstone, I would like to have it said, he touched the hearts and minds of many.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? So, for your final effort then to touch,
I'll never know.
that would be great. I mean, right. So, for listeners who may feel stuck or underestimated or floundering, tell us what one step could be that they can take away today to begin rewriting their own story. Your last tip in this podcast.
All right. Well, could I make it more than one thing?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Basically, the way I would leave this is that uh, you have to have direction. And once you have direction, you have to plan on how you can achieve your goals. How you can achieve the what you want to get out of life. And then the other part is to get started. And my core message here is to start. I see people that keep analyzing and adjusting the way they're going to start, and they keep changing it and adjusting and never start. They can't seem to get over inertia. And so what I say is that they have to overcome the paralysis of analysis and just start. The hardest part of the journey is getting started.
That's very true, isn't it? That's very true. You see it all the time, and I know I'm guilty of that for some reason. I think it's about trying to be, for me, a perfectionist and wanting to make sure it's right from the start. But I think that in a lot of cases, we don't need to do that. We just need to make a start, get 80% of there, and go forward. Is that something that you'd advocate?
Definitely. Uh, you know, you you know, you get out of it what you put into it. That's the end result.
And
You know,
you have put a lot into it. So fantastic. Well, we're running out of time now, Howard. So listen, everybody, listeners, what an inspiring and powerful journey from Dr. Howard E. Rubin that was, wasn't it? So his story is a true reminder that no obstacle is too great when paired with determination and faith. So if today's conversation resonated with you, be sure to pick up a copy of his book, How a Nobody Became a Somebody, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Thank you for tuning in, everybody, into the BrightWord Books Podcast. And until next time, keep reading, keep believing, and keep shining bright. And Howard, Dr. Rubin, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed being our guest. And I know that we've really enjoyed having you on. So, and you know what? I'm going to go away and I'm going to consider my little micro goals as we've discussed.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. So hopefully we'll speak again in the future. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.